Why does the media want Trump versus DeSantis? At least that's the question on my mind, because I didn't think this was a thing, and I was incredibly surprised to read that apparently there is a kerfuffle between these two.
Okay.
And we can at least see in the media here, for example. So, first one up, CNN. Trump takes thinly veiled shot at gutless DeSantis over COVID booster. That's what CNN went with. Got the next one. We have Vanity Fair also reporting on this. Looks like Ron DeSantis could turn into Trump's personal nightmare. We got the next one. We have New York Times saying, who is the king of Florida? Tensions rise between Trump and former acolyte. And if we keep going, we have The Independent as well reporting on this. Trump is briefed insiders that DeSantis is too dull to be president. What's with all the attention? What's with all the media coverage of this? Because I haven't even heard there was a single spat.
No.
So this was a big shock to me to see loads of them all publishing essentially the same article on the same day.
Well, the Republicans aren't exactly in a position that they can be infighting either, are they?
Nor do they look like a group that would be infighting right now, just by the support for Donald Trump. I mean, regardless of if you like or dislike the man within the Republican Party, he is the man. And so if we go to the last article here, so this one from the Times, I decided to just pick this one at random from the various types of articles talking about this, because it seemed to have all the information necessary, and I thought we'd go through. So, they're saying here, you can see the title there again, Trump takes aim at gutless Republican rival Ron DeSantis. They're saying here, endorsed by Trump for the Florida governor's post in 2017, DeSantis has emerged as his strongest opponent. What? What the hell are you talking about? Okay, we'll get into the spat in a minute, but the idea that he's the strongest opponent of Donald Trump, I mean, like, is he threatening...
I'm supposed to say the sitting president.
Like, is he meant to
Must be very weak if he's a sitting president and he's not the strongest opponent of the former president.
But also, for that to be true, you'd have to expect DeSantis to be, like, threatening Donald Trump's kids.
Sure.
Or something. The strongest opponent. Okay. And then continues, to the fury of the former president, DeSantis has gone on the attack, criticizing Trump's handling of the pandemic. Trump has been irritated that DeSantis has refused to rule out running against him. And, okay, so he said that he didn't agree with him on a thing and thought he might run if Donald Trump doesn't run. I'm like, what? So this is what I find so strange, because, of course, you can see that as well, some polling. So this is the Republican ticket. If we can scroll down, John, to get the polling up, please. You can see Donald Trump at 54%, DeSantis at 11% for who would you like to run as the presidential candidate for 2024. It's not a competition. It's very clear.
You know, I'm not seeing Mitt Romney on that list.
Oh, no.
Strange. Yep.
Oh. I mean, in second place is not sure.
Yeah.
So the idea that there is some concordance on this, or that, that Ron DeSantis is about to challenge him for the position, doesn't look like it from just the evidence on the ground. I mean, I know DeSantis' position is, I'm here if you need me, essentially. So if Donald Trump gets hit by a bus or lightning, then, okay, well, we have someone who's agreeing with him on a lot of stuff. So, quote, he says DeSantis has no personal charisma and has a dull personality, a source told the Axios website. Quote, in the context of the 2024 election, he usually gives DeSantis a pop in the nose in the middle of that type of conversation. Last week, Trump denounced the gutless politicians who declined to say whether they had had booster jabs. DeSantis has sidestepped such a question last month.
So this is the paragraph that they got the headline from. That seems very oblique. That's a real reach.
So Trump said that politicians who don't say whether or not they got the vaccine are gutless. DeSantis has dodged that question. Therefore, he is gutless. The context for that as well is DeSantis just said, my medical history is none of your damn business. Get lost. Which, again, just makes him look like a rock star on that issue. No, like, this is not a... How did he put it? I'm trying to remember now. A biomedical state or something like that was like his term. We're not going to live in some kind of medical security state. Instead, it is going to be a free country.
Not. Is it a matter of public interest whether this particular politician has been vaccinated?
Not really. I saw his press secretary. She was just getting sent random messages from loads of different journos, endlessly like harassing her, being like, "Has he got the booster? When's he getting the booster?" She's just like, "Go to hell. Get lost. Smear merchant." So
sounds like we should hire her at that with that sort
good lady. The pandemic and Trump's handling of it have emerged as a weakness, the author writes here. In the year since he left the White House, the war over vaccines and masks has been whipped up by the right against President Biden as his administration struggles to contain the virus. No, like they've been whipped up because he's been mandating them. And if you mandate things, well, that's anti-American by definition because it's anti-freedom.
I recall as well, the Democrats were already drawing partisan lines over this issue when it was the so-called Trump vaccine. They were like, I'm never going to take the Trump vaccine, blah, blah,
Would
blah.
you trust a Trump vaccine?
Exactly. right?
Kamala Harris.
We all remember this. We have memories longer than a goldfish. And to say that this has been entirely whipped up by the right or even by the Republicans is just nonsense.
Yeah, but the argument being the being forced to wear a mask and carry vaccine papers is the same as death or taxes. It's not. It is a government decision and not one that needs to be taken, and therefore anti-freedom. So that has left Trump out of step with the extreme right of the party, the author writes, to which he gave a voice from 2016. No, I don't agree. If there's an extreme right of the party for defining people as vaccine hesitant or whatever as the extreme right of the Republican Party, I think most of them are just like, I just want to be free, which is why when Trump gave a speech about this, I don't know if you remember, he just said, yeah, get the vaccine. It's good for you. I think it's great. You know, we shouldn't let them take the credit for it. But we need to have freedom. You know, that was Trump's stance on the thing, which everyone can respect because it's like, okay, you can agree or disagree, but whatever. The freedom part is the important part, and therefore the point of unity. So he said it also undermined his effort to claim credit for the vaccination program. Trump was booed by some supporters when he revealed that he had received the booster. And he, of course, doesn't mention the clip or show the clip because, well, it's an article. But also, if you go and watch the clip, it's like 5 people in the back. I mean, he even says, like, it's a small group over there. Which, okay. Desantis has seized the opportunity to launch his most explicit attack on Trump so far, speaking last week to Ruthless, a conservative podcast. He said one of his biggest regrets was not speaking out much louder when Trump advised that the nation stay at home to contain the spread of the virus in early 2020. Advice. Because Trump can't lock down the country.
Yeah.
Not his job. It was the people in charge of the states to do that if they wanted to. And his position was, of course, it's early February. No one has any idea what the hell's going on. So people were confused at the time. But I imagine if he were to look back at that, he wouldn't support such a move. Never mind it just being advice anyway. But obvious. But DeSantis says, I never thought in February, early March, that COVID-19 would lead to locking down the country, said DeSantis, who counseled Trump in the early stages of the crisis. I was like, it just seems like a moot point. But I imagine DeSantis and Trump agree on this. Driving even harder to the right, DeSantis has blocked the mandates on vaccines and wearing masks at work and in schools imposed by Biden. Yes. Also a point of unity for Trump and DeSantis.
Right, yeah.
This is why I find the story strange. Like, all of these media outlets going with, don't you know there's a fracas? Don't you know that he's challenging him for the crown or something? It's like, but every single issue you keep bringing up, it's a point of unity. It's them both agreeing on, we need freedom. You should be free to do this. If you want to wear the mask, go for it. It's your choice. You want to get the vaccine, go for it. It's your choice. But with no mandates. COVID-19 infections have surged in Florida, but his stance has boosted his popularity among Republicans. Okay, we're going to stop it there, because Florida. Do you know the COVID is surging in Florida, John?
Oh, no.
It's terrible. I thought we'd check out the CDC for a fact check on that. Just let's see how Florida is doing compared to the rest of the country. Oh. For people listening, we're looking at a map of the United States by county. Every single county except like a handful in Montana or whatever are colored in deep red as high transmission. How could Ron DeSantis do this? Why has Ron DeSantis done this? Does Ron DeSantis just want everyone to get COVID and that's why he banned these mandates, which are clearly stopping it elsewhere?
Doesn't it also depend on how they've measured this? High transmission, but sorry, do carry on.
But it's also just strange where they're just like, yeah, don't you know it's surging in Florida? It's
yeah.
Literally every other state is in the same situation, so this criticism makes no sense whatsoever. But I know, how could DeSantis do this? Bad man. If we go to the next link as well, I just want to mention, I won't stay on COVID because who isn't tired of talking about COVID, but I thought I'd just mention here as well, I don't know if you can get these images up. I did notice this morning that Vox has also come to terms with the fact that the tools aren't working. So this is an article from them saying the most vaccinated places in America can't avoid Omicron. And then in the text in their own article, remember Vox.com, progressive leftist outlet. Go to the next image here, please, John. We can read that they wrote, all concert goers were required to show proof of COVID-19 vaccination and wear masks, else risk a $100 fine. And as a result, 2,000 attendees tested positive. That's 3% of the attendees got COVID, even though they had everything in there as tyrannical as possible. If we go to the next image, you can see them also being like, yeah, you know those masks? Vox's opinion, not mine, YouTube. I'm just saying what Vox said here. We need better masks, says Vox. Cloth masks won't cut it against Omicron, says Vox, not us. We would never do such a thing. Remember, because it's against YouTube terms of service.
I'm keeping my mouth shut.
And if we go to the next one here, again, Vox, not us, just New York Magazine, I don't know, some far-right wingers at Vox.com. Cloth masks and face coverings don't filter aerosols, the particles through which coronavirus spreads particularly well, writes Vox. The means of surgical masks and N95 masks are the way to go in 2022.
Yeah, so all this conversation is about really is the size of the particulates in question, the little bits and the droplets in the air, and the size of the essentially the links in the fence of the barrier that's the masks. And if you have a higher level mask, then those bars in the fence are closer together and they can stop the aerosols getting in. Whereas with a poorer mask, they're further apart. So, well, I'll let you draw your own conclusions.
I think I will give the official government or at least YouTube editorial standard line on it, because if not, I'll be shot, which is that masks can play a role in combating COVID-19, obviously, and, well, N95 certainly works. Moving on. Let's go to the next link here, so we'll go back to the article for a minute, just to finish off this weird writing. Last month, he proposed the Stop Woke Act, DeSantis here, that would allow Florida parents to sue schools for teaching critical race theory, which says that the law and other institutions are inherently racist and is a bugbear of conservatives.
Well, it also is built on the premise that whiteness is evil and white people are bad.
But also civil rights movement bad,
Yes.
because it desegregated the schools.
Yes.
If you're in any debate at any point about critical race theory, just bring that up. Because the thing is, like, it's the foundational text. Like, I got Carl's book over there. I've read, like, what was it, the first article. And the first essay, sorry. It's literally just a guy being like, don't you know desegregation was bad because now we have to mix with the whites? Right, okay. But also the idea that only conservatives should be concerned about such things and such people. Baseball hats have appeared declaring DeSantis 2024 Make America Florida. I just lol. It's just funny. I don't even care if he runs or not. Just I still want one of those hats. Opinion polls consistently place him as the front runner of the Republican nomination if Trump chooses not to run again. Other likely contenders, such as Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor, have stated that they will not run against Trump because they'd lose. But DeSantis has been coy about his ambitions. You mean stating that he'll run if Trump doesn't? Again, it's so clear-cut, and yet the media is so hyped for a fight between the two of them. At a rally in Arizona on Saturday, Trump appeared to quash any lingering doubts. Quote, "In 2024, we are going to take back the White House," Trump said. Crystal clear. I mean, this is what I find so strange. Why so many articles? Why so much hubbub about the fight here? Well, there are some thoughts, and we'll get to those in just a minute, but I thought I'd mention The Guardian's version of events instead.
Oh, no.
They went with denial. Florida man, DeSantis, focusing on non-existent issues as election looms.
Critics say.
I love it. There are no issues.
I love it. It's a line which the left is using more and more. Issues are non-existent.
Yeah.
Problems are non-existent if they're other people's. Yeah.
Planes don't crash in Soviet Union.
Right.
It's got the same vibe. It's just like there's nothing going on. What's he campaigning against? Nothing. Okay, that's why it's such a problem for you. But we'll get to the reaction as to why some people, at least DeSantis' press secretary, thinks that there's all this hubbub about him running against Trump or something. She says on Twitter here, corporate media desperately trying to manufacture a feud between DeSantis and President Trump. When the governor attacks 2020 Fauci, they run with a fake headline, DeSantis attacks Trump administration. Not a coincidence, this narrative emerged as Brandon had the worst week of his presidency. Yeah, I think she's probably right. So him pointing out that Fauci made terrible decisions, gave terrible advice, just terrible guy, and therefore did a bad job. Well, no, that's them attacking Trump, and it's like, no. And I think the media is actually trying to cock something up here because, well, they can't focus on Brandon's cock-ups. Well, that wouldn't be allowed. But if we go to the next link, we can see her also just having fun, and I thought I'd mention it just because I like having fun too. And there's this stupid meme here from Crafty Feminist, who decided to put it out, so we can scroll down, John, so everyone can see it. What authoritarian regimes do: limit ideas taught in schools, intimidate educators, suppress votes, and ban protests. I thought we'd just go through them for a minute, because that's amazing. So authoritarianism is when the government lets you make your own decisions. That's what Christina put there, because, of course, what are they saying? If you limit racism in schools, that's what authoritarian does. Forces teachers not to whine about black queer theory to children. Yeah, that's suppression right there. Suppress votes. Illegal votes. Illegal votes aren't votes. They're not allowed. Simple as. But I just love the last one there. Ban protests. Do you see the image they've used? Do you see what's behind DeSantis in the text?
It looks like something burning, doesn't it?
Burning building. A burning building. Where from? Oh, could you guess?
It's not a BLM, right?
I have a hunch. I couldn't get the specific image. If we just go to the next, I mean, come on. If you just Google George Floyd riots fires, then you will get endless images after images of
and
exactly
lots of them
that.
are different buildings as well. It's not just this. Lots of photos of the same building.
Yeah. I can't get over how they literally put like he's banning protests. Here's an image of a burning building. That's our protest. Thanks for living the meme. And
Yeah, that's not a protest, is it, really? That doesn't... Like, that image isn't screaming protest to me.
Martin Luther King stood outside.
Yeah,
This
and
is a peaceful gathering.
And it's telling that you had to Google riots and fires rather than protests to get
Yeah.
this image up. It's almost as if leftist journalists have forgotten the meaning of words.
You know what's funny though? Know your meme also has exactly the same definition.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of think that it's maybe a joke by the people editing it, presumably. And as you can see here, 2020 George Floyd protests. That's what the meme is called. How do they describe the meme? The meme being 2020 George Floyd protests. The 2020 George Floyd protests refers to the riots that occurred across the United States, which sparked by the death of George Floyd. The protests refer to the riots.
Brilliant.
I mean, like, it's such a meme at this point. Know Your Meme has an entry for it.
Yep.
And yeah, that is the leftist doublethink in action right there. But I thought I'd just cover that because the weird obsession with trying to make a fight when there doesn't seem to be one. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe 2 years from now. We
Well,
might see
isn't
one.
this just fake news?
That's how Christina points at it. She's just like, this is fake nudes. Get out.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's a completely manufactured controversy, representative of nothing on the ground that's relevant to the actual viewer, but they're trying to drum up this thing to... I mean, it does really... I remember someone said on one of our podcasts earlier that Trump's knowledge of the media in America comes from his background in wrestling. And when I hear this sort of nonsense, I really get that impression because it sounds as flimsy as a wrestling narrative. Do you see what I mean?
We're going to be in the ring.
Yeah.
You slept with my wife. Yeah. Although it may be also, as some people have pointed to this, which is that, as Christina says, well, Brandon's having the worst week of his life, the worst time of his life probably as well. And, well, the Democrats look like crap. They're all covered in mud from their failures of the last 2 years. God knows how the next 2 years are going to go for them. Well, in which case, well, what can they do except try and sow discontent among the right of the United States? Well, what else have they got? And maybe this is a vector of attack. At least they think so. But I don't think that Desantis has any such ambitions, as he has publicly stated many a time, and his own press secretary. It's just, no, we're criticizing Brandon for being crap. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go over to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this video, which is Contemplations, that went up over the weekend about why the mainstream media are terrible and are bad for you. But if you'd like to keep up with what else is coming out on the website, you can always follow us on Getter. So you could go, for example, to see more from Josh at Josh's Getter account here, at Josh_firm. Thank you and goodbye.